Karazi, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Christensen.
Here.
Mrs. Dobus.
Here.
Mr. McGregor.
Here.
Mr. Modrak.
Here.
Mr. Nagel.
Here.
Mrs. Rule. Mr. Scalzo.
Here.
Mr. Spacuzza.
Present.
Mrs. Turner.
Here.
8 members present.
Thank you. I'd like a motion for an intent to adopt the agenda for business items.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda for business items. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meetings of November the 19th and December the 3rd.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the meetings in November and December. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I'd like to announce executive sessions on December 3rd and on December 10th for personnel, other legal matters, and to receive information. At this time, I'd like to have the student government give their report, please. And while you're walking up, I want to thank Ms. Floda for providing us with the good news report in a form that everyone was able to look at ahead of time, and hopefully you enjoyed that presentation. And as board members, we received it also.
Hey, so if you remember from last time, we talked about the starting of a collaboration between NHS, PACS, and SGA to make our school a better place and be more productive. So right before the Thanksgiving break, we put that into action. We had a joint work day. We actually assembled 75 care packages for the military, and we were able to give those to someone with a connection who can ship them, and they give them sometimes to shipment or deployments as they're being deployed, as they walk on the plane. And that workday, we also we put together 400 packages of cookies that people were able to send to their friends just to give thanks to their friends during Thanksgiving. We called it Friendsgiving. So we allowed people to send 400 cookies to their friends just to brighten spirits during the holidays. And then next Tuesday, December 17th, we're going to be going to Manor Care, which is an elderly care home I'm not sure if it's in Upper St. Clair, Bethel Park, or Peters, but it's in the area. We'll be wrapping a couple hundred Christmas presents for the elderly who live there, who wouldn't always have the people around that we do during the holidays.
So how did you send 400 packages of cookies? Did you hand deliver them?
Yeah, so we let people make notes at lunches, and then we stapled them. We ordered the cookies prepackaged and individually bagged, and then we stapled their notes to the cookies, and then we had SGA people deliver them to homerooms.
And also on the 17th, we are having a student staff Secret Santa. So we basically just, anyone that wanted to sign up, the students or the staff. And so we're all going to go at breakfast before school on the 17th, where we'll just be eating and handing out presents. And then on Friday, we're having a senior luncheon, which is, I think, periods 7, 8, 9. And that's
For
it.
seniors or?
For,
Senior citizens
Yeah.
needs.
Yeah.
SGA will be helping serve them.
Thank you. PTA, PTO report, please. And I'd like to thank you for sending it to the board ahead of time, so we had a chance to take a look at it. Thank you.
I'll let them know. Thank you. All right. Abraham Lincoln Elementary. Lincoln held their cupcakes with Santa on December 6th. Many students enjoyed telling Santa and Mrs. Claus what they would like for Christmas. Holiday Shop is being held December 10th through 13th, and all the children are looking forward to the class parties later this month. Ben Franklin Elementary. Ben Franklin is in the holiday spirit. They just wrapped up the Santa shop and ended with cookies with Santa. They had over 80 families come and decorate a Christmas cookie, drink some Grinch punch, make an ornament, and some reindeer food. To cap off the night, the students got to have a talk and picture with Santa himself. George Washington Elementary. George Washington will hold its annual holiday sing-along on Wednesday, December 11th at BPHS. They are also hosting a new and improved Cookies with Santa on December 13th at the school. New activities include a Christmas photo booth, airbrush artists, piano players, a performance by the BPHS choir, along with others. Their holiday gift shop will take place from December 10th to the 13th, and holiday parties will be on December 20th. The George Washington PTO will host a donuts and cocoa breakfast for teachers and staff on December 19th. Preparations are underway for a STEM night in late January and 2 new fundraising events in February. Neon Party on February 7th and Penny Pigs Coin Drive starting on February 3rd. Happy holidays. Memorial Elementary. Memorial just finished up the Sarah's Candy and Yankee Candles sales. The fundraisers in 2020 will be pepperoni rolls, an annual readathon, and square art merchandise. The 4th grade activities committee is collecting supplies for the South Hills Pet Rescue. Students select a name tag from the Christmas tree in the school lobby, then bring in a donation. The 4th grade will also be caroling at Paramount Senior Living next Monday, the 16th. Memorial is working on getting requirements ready for accepting scholarship applications for its new scholarship fund available to Memorial alumni for college or trade school. The $500 amount was approved at the PTA meeting in September. Neil Armstrong Middle School. NAMS is preparing for its charity carnival. Santa Shop is this week. 6th graders will be shopping soon for Operation Santa. Sales of Bethel Park pop sockets are going well, and the Love Your Melon beanies will be sold at the holiday band and string concerts. I've never heard of that. I'll have to check it out. Planning for Battle of the Books and a readathon are also underway. And Independence Middle School. The IMS Craft Show was a success. There were 65 vendors who attended the event. Considering Thanksgiving was late this year, there was a lot of foot traffic, and the vendors were happy with their sales. December 16th through the 20th is Spirit Week for the students, and the Spirit Week will wrap up with a student carnival on Friday, December 20th. The teachers organize the carnival, and students can help work the games with a teacher. So, thank you. That's our report, and have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much, you too. Solicitor report?
No report tonight, Madam President.
Okay, thank you. Are there any committee reports? I went to the Shade Tree Commission meeting this past month, and they're looking to see what possible areas in Bethel and the municipal parks they'll be able to plant more trees. Also looking to do a tree inventory in a couple of the parks to see what trees we have and what trees need to be taken down and different things like that. Several schools have contacted the Shade Tree Commission because the first planting was done at Neil Armstrong through donations, and the feeling is that if the PTOs want to raise money for the trees and different things like that, they should then approach the Shade Tree Commission in order to work with them in planting the trees, because the trees that were planted at Neil Armstrong weren't, it was all through donations. There wasn't any municipal money used nor school district money used, although there was a cooperation between the public works and the custodial staff and so forth at both places to help with that tree planting. The rec department I was at that meeting also. The Turkey Trot was a huge success this year. They anticipated having 100 to 150 people participate in the Turkey Trot, and there were about 266 people. So it was a huge success for the first year, and looking to make it even more participants next year. So that was fabulous, and the school district worked with them in allowing that Washington Elementary School to be opened. It was a very windy day that day, and the tents were flying everywhere, so Most of it happened within the gymnasium there. And in addition to that, they are looking to put out challenge grants for the Bethel Park athletic organizations to apply for grants to improve fields and different things like that. So that's through the Bethel Park Rec Department. Any other committee reports from?
Mrs. Douglas, can I make a comment
Yes.
on the shade tree?
Yes.
If anyone's interested, I think the municipality is actually looking for new members for that committee. So if you're interested, you can go.
Yes, someone moved away, so they're right, yes. Thank you, I forgot about that. Okay, at this time, we're looking for public comments on agenda items. And we did talk a lot last time about changing our agenda and when public comments are going to be allowed and different things like that, but we haven't finalized any of that, so we're doing it the same way as we have been doing it in the past for this particular meeting. So all the comments right now, if they could be only on agenda items, please.
Hi, Brenda Paysor, 3224 Arapahoe Road. I have some questions about the appointment of, or opening of a position for another high school principal. I was not at last week's meeting, but I did watch it and note that that was mentioned during the board wish list time. And I'm wondering that currently there are 4 individuals with administrative duties at the high school. So is there a plan to eliminate one of those positions? And if so, or if not, what is it that those 4 individuals are not able to do that a 5th person would do? Currently, there are 1,300 some students, somewhere between 1,300 and 1,400, I believe, the lowest student body in decades, as far back as I can remember anyway. So I'm not understanding what the need is there. Also wondering what the cost will be and where the money's coming from. Just 6 months ago, the majority of those of you now on the board were claiming that we were in financial crisis, and I'm wondering how it is we are able to add another position. And I'd like to mostly know how it's going to be justified. And I'm happy to see there are new student textbooks on there, which are more or less a one-time expenditure, at least for, what was it, 7 years, 8 years? Or was that removed from this one? No. The addition of an assistant principal would be an ongoing every year expense. So wondering where the money's coming from that. With that, is that in the budget that was proposed last week or not? Thank you.
Thank you. This is a combined committee and business meeting, so we'll be discussing that when the time comes.
Hi, Sandy Blackmore, 3540 Valley Drive. First of all, thank you for the agenda. Like we discussed last week, we, the audience, also understand it is a moving document. I just had a question. The PSBA membership, I think that's what Ken spoke about last time. Is this the additional, like the 1,200, is this something we're going to do, like, is it a yearly thing that we need to, like, put into our budget? I'm so glad you guys are doing it because it gives you that all access that I think everybody needs. But I just wondered if it was like a yearly thing that we need to make sure we put in the budget for like next year and then the years after. And then on the back, the change of the start time, will that start in January for the January meetings? So that's all, that's, you know, I know we'll get there and discuss that, but thank you.
I think both will end up, we'll discuss when we get to the point of the agenda.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Any other public comments? Okay, so this is a combined meeting, so the first will be a discussion about the items underneath a particular committee, and then we'll move to the voting portion for that particular committee. So under the curriculum committee, we have 4 different items, and I'm opening that all of them up right now for any questions that you might have about any of those items.
I do have a few questions about high school course selection guide. So I received an email yesterday. So the change was, or addition, I guess, was looking at dual enrollment language added to the following courses: AP Biology, AP Physics, and Algebra 2 Honors course. I would like to know if we're going to receive information or updates like that, can we get that ahead of time? Because if we're going to vote on something like that, I'd like to know a little bit more about dual enrollment, have more of an understanding. Because if I need to make an informed decision if I'm going to vote. I would like to know about that, let's say, a week ahead of time. I don't know if that's a possibility. So that I could research, I can study if there's any changes that are taking place. At least it provides me some time to formulate some questions. So that is one question that I have. Another question, I don't even know if did the public get that information about the dual enrollment changes? Did they get a chance to see that? Okay, so if I just received the email yesterday, then you probably don't have it on your agenda. So again, I just think for transparency, it would be nice if we got that a week ahead of time so that everybody can see that. I also have another question. What data do we have about how rigorous a dual enrollment course is compared to an AP class? When you're looking at curriculum, if it's from CCAC or another university, what are their standards? What does their curriculum look like compared to the AP College Board? So the AP College Board, you approximately have anywhere from 80,000 to 100,000 students maybe taking one particular test in a general content area. So that has specific benchmarks that a teacher needs to hit. So with CCAC or other community colleges, again, I just want to make sure our kids are college ready. So it's one thing to get college credit. If you get college credit, that's fine. But does one course or one path better suit our students or better serve our students, making them more college ready? Because again, and this is not a knock on CCAC or any other schools, but what if some of those courses that are dual enrollment are like a blow-off class? At least with an AP course, with the AP College Board and the AP curriculum, every teacher in the United States has to follow that curriculum and hit those benchmarks and hit those goals. So is it more rigorous to go down that path, right? So I want to know what's best for our students. I hope it's not just for economic reasons. Oh, it's cheaper, let's go this route with, CCAC, but hey, what about when they get into college? If it was easier with that path, then what happens when they take a 300 level, a 400 level course in college, right? And they're not ready. What if the AP course is more rigorous, and that preps them for those classes in the future? Again, I have lots of questions to ask, and getting an email, 24 hours ago, I think I would have probably 20 more questions to ask if I had 7 days to look at that information. Also, I have a few more things that I wanted to ask.
Do you want them to be answered?
I'm just going to mention them all, and then if
Okay.
anybody wants them to be
Well, I
repeated.
think Ms. Wells will be able to
Okay.
address some of them.
What data do we have from our local competing school districts? Like, what are they doing, especially any of them in the top 3? Are they pushing dual enrollment? If so, why? If not, why? So again, how did this all come about? The last question would be, what was the process for creating dual enrollment? Was there a committee? If so, who participated? How did we go about that whole process? Basically, let's start at the very beginning, all the way to how I actually received the email yesterday. So what is that sequence of events? What did that all look like? I need to learn as much as possible before I make a vote. I have to be totally informed before I cast a vote.
So I'll start, and then maybe Ms. Wells will jump in. Start off by saying a little disappointed as well that we just got the course selection notebook to give to you yesterday. So we'll take some ownership of that. I know Ms. Wells has worked diligently to try to get that, and I know the folks at the high school are busy, but that's something that should have been here quite a bit earlier, in our opinion. And I know she won't say that, but I will, and I'll take responsibility because I'm a superintendent and say I should have pressed harder and not just had her send reminder after reminder. We've been asking for the document. That being said, it is a document that needs input to defend the high school, and they really do need to make sure that it's accurate because it's part of scheduling, and if there are adjustments that need to be made, it's always a time crunch, you know, teachers, meeting with teachers and departments to get that thing done, and so that we can move through the scheduling process. So I agree with you. You should have that well in advance, and I know Ms. Wells was working well in advance to get that and was unable to get that. So that's part on me, though, because I should have gone down there and got it myself. So that's one thing, but I do agree with you. College and the high school, I'll give you my theory on that. I'm big on college and the high school, but it could also run congruent, or concurrent, I should say, excuse me, with AP at the same time. Not every course does, and she'd be able to speak a little bit more directly to that, but many of the courses, you could have the option to take an AP test at the end. You could do college and the high school credit for it, and or you could do both. Some advantages is there was a law recently passed too around the community colleges and state colleges, where if you go to the community college, state colleges, not all colleges, but state colleges have to accept many of those credits. So that really helps our students, giving them an advantage to gain credit out of there. That being said, the rigor of the AP is definitely something that is important as well. And from my perspective, many times, not all, but many times, you could do both at the same time. Obviously, if you have an AP course running concurrent with the college and the high school course or dual enrollment course, it would have to be approved by the AP. So in that case, it's the same level of rigor, to your point, as before. So my theory is to give the students as many options as possible. As far as cost goes, students can take the test for X amount of dollars. She would know the exact figure. Or they could pay to have a credit. Often, the credit is a little bit more expensive, I believe, than the actual assignment of the test. So really, it would cost you a little bit more. If you did both, that would give you the opportunity to pass the test, which many folks, colleges would recognize that even more so than just state schools for transfer of credits. But
Could I ask one thing?
You sure
Okay,
can.
So, for the curriculum, so if it's through CCAC, is it different? Are you taking different tests? Or are you going through the AP curriculum, taking the AP test, but yet you're actually paying?
I'll let her speak to that, but in general, I would say that there are some courses that are concurrent. So go ahead, Ms. Wells.
Correct. It depends on which course. And so none of these courses are actually new, with the exception of AP Physics. Well, no, that's not correct. These courses are actually running now as dual enrollment courses. And so we're updating the course selection.
AP Bio is and AP Physics?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
They're running now, this year, because they were added last year as we grew the dual enrollment program. And so you asked about the process, and I believe Dr. Work started that process even maybe before I got here, or as I was coming here, conversations with the facilitators, and brought CCAC in. And so then folks who were interested in looking to see if their course, already existing course, could work to be a dual enrollment course, they then offered to do that based on their course and their education levels, because they had to be accepted by CCAC to teach the course. And so some courses were everything just the way they run it as their AP course. CAC looked at their syllabus, their scope and sequence, and they said that was fine. That met the rigor of their entry-level collegiate course. Some courses, such as the AP Language and Composition course, there are 5 types of writing that CCAC wanted to see in that course. So then they met with the facilitator, and they looked at the types of writing that they do and how they could meet the needs of AP, to keep her syllabus and her rigor intact, and also meet then the requirements of CCAC. And they decided which assignments would make that transition. So it sort of depends on each course of how that works. And then the one that's not is the Algebra 2 honors level course. That is not currently an AP course.
So would you say that, and correct me if I'm wrong, so for AP Bio and AP Physics, are they following the actual AP curriculum?
Correct.
That is what they're following.
Correct.
And
AP physics is through
CCAC
Pitt, so I
is-
can't speak to that
Oh,
one as well.
okay.
I don't know that
Okay.
one as well. Dr. O'Rourke may be able to speak to that because she was handling that. Mr. Cristofano actually brought that to us, that
Okay.
he wanted to investigate doing that.
Okay.
And he brought that to our
Well,
attention.
okay. Regardless of what school, schools are in agreement that if you follow the AP curriculum, that suffices. That's,
Again, there were some minor tweaks of the AP language, one that that they wanted to see, like, I can't name one off the top of my head because I wasn't involved in the nitty-gritty conversations of actual assignment development.
what about like free response questions, you know, AP test questions? Are they okay with that same testing, that same assessment?
Yes, they don't dictate, so they're semester-long courses and we're offering year-long courses. So we do above and beyond what is in the CCAC agenda.
Okay.
We go above and beyond because we offer these whole year AP courses.
When we had originally looked at these, the expanding this, the prerequisite was AP. So the course to be offered as a dual enrollment had to be in already an AP course that was instructed by an AP teacher who had been trained. And then we could see if the rigor of the AP course, that we weren't going to change it, make it less rigorous, met the requirement of CCAC. So then we were able to offer either or, because not every university accepts AP,
Okay.
nor does every student want to take the AP exam. So we wanted to open that up to give our students as many opportunities and the ability to make those choices to better impact whatever their next step was.
Okay.
So that's the expansion of that. And what we have found is with Pennsylvania Department of Ed, with their influx further of career and college-ready expectations, most of your community colleges right now are offering pathways to almost partner with some schools to get an associate's degree or close to it by the time the child finishes high school, in the idea that these pathways are going to better prepare kids for the world of work and the world of career that is in this region that the community college can support.
Okay.
So that, if you look at career and college readiness, Pennsylvania Department of Ed career and college readiness standards and the pathways, that partnership and college and the high school, college and dual enrollment, and AP are all definitely being supported by the current thread of expectation of preparing kids for whatever's next.
And one last thing, it was one of my questions. Do we have any data on the surrounding districts? Peters, Upper St. Clair, Mount Lebanon, any of them, on what they are doing with dual enrollment? If they are pushing more AP, or are they pushing or expanding and doing more dual enrollment? I'm just curious with our competitors.
Well, when you look at competitively, if you look across the board and some of the research that I did a few years ago, Peters Township went in the direction of they went further into AP, looking at a partnership that they did with the National Math Science Partnership, NIMSY, if you were part of that, was part of the conversation a few years ago that we were going to be a part of. And in that expectation was to prepare teachers at the middle school level into better training students to have more kids on that pathway of AP. And that's the pathway that Peters Township took at that point. Upper St. Clair has the International Baccalaureate that is a little bit different than what anybody else in this region is offering. And they've gone in that direction. College and the high school, I believe that you know better than I do of what Mount Lebanon offers.
We have offered that, but recently, the dual enrollment or college in the high school has kind of dwindled down, and we are pushing more to go on the AP approach.
Just a question for you, because I don't know, and that's something that we can ask, Dr. O'Rourke or somebody to get some additional information to your point. But I guess my follow-up question is if you're running them concurrently, it gives kids both options. And I think that, to me, is really what it's all about. Giving students more options to be able to follow a pathway that they need. I believe in that. I mean, so that was, I know one thing I really pushed and recommended. The biggest sticking point always with CCAC really was, unfortunately, they've been a lot more open to allowing and accepting our staff, who is more than qualified, from my professional opinion, to teach the courses. They're already teaching AP, to your point, but to allow them to provide that opportunity and use that. So I really think the development of that and giving kids an option to do one, the other, or both in these courses are good. And I think in anywhere that it's possible where our teachers are interested in expanding both AP and in college and the high school, that's something we should continue to try to do. I think, I don't know, Ms. Wells, you might, or Dr. O'Rourke might have the exact number, but I think we've increased the number of college and the high school classes by quite a few recently. And I think your last point about, who did we involve when, I know they were meeting, and to try to see who had interest in doing that and what colleges and universities would be willing to do that.
So if I understand this, just to kind of summarize it, we offer the AP classes, we teach the AP curriculum, they can take the AP test as a result of that. Additionally, if they choose, they can get college credit through CCAC because they
don't want to take the AP test.
Approved our class, so they could get college credit that way, and/or they can do both.
Correct.
Okay.
And what it came down to tell you the truth, Mrs. Douglas, a few years ago, the conversation was, we had quite a few kids that were participating in our AP courses, but not taking the AP exam. We don't require the AP exam, or do we pay for the AP exam? So in that, they were taking the course, but not really benefiting themselves as significantly as they could. So then the conversation came that these are options that are available. And the other piece is community colleges kind of reached out and started supporting that. We've always had like HitCalc, for years, college and high school, but some of the community colleges started offering. The opportunity to provide college credit that the kids could transfer to a variety of different universities.
Okay.
So it was more or less, these were the sign of the times, and we wanted to give kids every opportunity that we possibly could, that they're taking something with them, well beyond a diploma, that they can use whatever they choose to do next, that they go to another school.
Okay, thank you. I have another question about the course selection guide. On page 9, it talks about CEW standards and that they're now required by the state. And it didn't really give you any information about how we fulfill those requirements. Is there a particular course that the students take in order to, or how do we verify that they take, that we do that?
So we have assignment 3rd grade through 12th grade that they are done. Some of them are done in the library setting. Some of them are done in the health class setting. Some of them are done in the social studies classroom. It depends.
Okay.
And so we have it mapped out and work with the staff and the principals and sort of have a timeline of when these activities will happen that allows for some makeup time if need be, in case kids are absent. And we have a master tracking spreadsheet where we go in and we, just track the kids as they complete the assignments. Some of them are done in Navient, some of them are done again in the classroom, some of them are done through Everfi, an online platform. So a variety of ways to get kids involved, tailored to all kids' needs, and we track them all individually.
Well, thank you, because I couldn't figure out from that description how we ensure that the students all meet those requirements. Maybe for next year's course description, a little descriptor saying that students are tracked individually to ensure that they, I mean, that's just a suggestion, not for this year, but for next year maybe. Any other questions about any of the items under curriculum?
One question on the social studies textbooks. Are those actual textbooks? Is that, online? Is it both? What does it look like?
So that's a both. I had to make a little
Okay.
chart actually about how many are online and how many are hardbound because it's not the
Okay.
same.
Okay.
So there's enough online subscriptions for the kids who will be in the class. And then most of the teachers, because this was done by the social studies department committee, most of the teachers decided they wanted classroom sets, not necessarily one hardbound book per student, because students now have access on their device, but they did want a copy of books within the classroom. And so we roughly use 35 as a classroom set, gave
Okay.
some extras in case things got lost or a replacement. So it is a combination of both. I could share this with you if you, I put it in a grid form if you would like, but there's a
Sure. No, that's fine.
combination of both.
Have we done, and this is maybe isn't directed just to this, but have we done an assessment or a survey just in terms of, preference? Every student has different learning styles, and whether they're, visual, audio, or, online resources, hard copy textbook resources. Have we done an assessment since we went to the Chromebooks to find out how much variation is there? How much do we need to accommodate different learning styles with, physical textbooks versus online textbooks? And
I'm not sure that we've done a survey on that. Does anyone have?
No, I just asked Ron, we had a conversation about, it wasn't done in the survey, but there was a conversation that was done with some kids. And right after we implemented the one-on-one, to kind of ask them whether they thought this was working for them.
yeah,
At that point in time, and predominantly the responses were very positive about it, but we have not, that I can recollect in the last 4 years, revisited that.
yeah,
We do give kids options, though, often, that if a kid wants a copy of the text, there's a copy of the
Yeah.
text available to them.
okay. It might be interesting, or it might be good to ask that question. I don't know if we can do this through a survey, class survey or something informal. It'd just be good, it'd be interesting to see that data, to see if we need to accommodate students more.
We used to.
Because I think everybody at this table may struggle if we had to take, like calculus just on the laptop or something like that, or, or biology or something.
We would solicit responses, and Ron just reminded me, we used to, I don't think that, I don't know if we did this past year or not, but we used to do a survey through Bright Bites.
Mhm.
That was a survey for our staff and our teachers, administration, the students, and also the families around the use of technology, basically, is what the premise was. And we haven't done that in the last few years. The IU, the Elderly Intermediate Unit, was who offered that for quite a few years. And it was interesting information, the survey data was. However, it was data that, you can survey, but if you don't, if you don't take an active role using the data to do something, then it was not to fruition. So that was probably what I was talking about when we had asked kids, and predominantly most of them said that that's how they like to learn.
Okay.
Mrs. Wells, in this, the books that we're purchasing for 9th through 12th grade, I know in the past, my daughter included, at times the book that is online and the book that they are using in the classroom are different versions, meaning, different year subscriptions, things have changed. Are we buying the product to where if it changes online because a new version comes out, the new books come also? Or are the students going to have a different version than their?
That is not my understanding. My understanding is that the online version is updated either quarterly or on the semester, twice a year. I can't remember, she sent me the email, but the online versions would have updates and they correspond to the latest print version, which is what we are purchasing. Like, that's our starting point right now.
But over the course of years, it may not line up. Is that what you're saying?
If
we
they
want-
make, minor modifications.
Do you have the right to, maybe that was your question.
Yeah, that's my next question. Is there an ability to, 3 years down the line, if we're several pages off or we're several items off in a situation, are we able to purchase new hard books at a discounted rate? Or are we locked into these anywhere from 5 to 7 years with these same books?
I don't know the answer to that. I would assume these are the books that they're not going to send us new. Again, my understanding is the online material they would add would be supplemental in nature, that they would not, it's my understanding that they're not going to be putting in whole new like chapters or units and change it completely. But I don't know that for sure.
Can we find that's a concern?
Well, if they're only having the print book in the classroom and they're using the online at home, the online would be more up to date.
It would be, but it tends to be confusing at times, especially if you have a child that does bring the hard textbook back for a 504 plan. And as a parent working with that book and working with online, it is, as Barry said, trying to do calculus at times online.
And there are a lot of kids who really can't handle the online, at home. A lot of parents will find that, okay, my kid's on the online curriculum right now. You walk out of the room, you come back, and they're playing Tetris or Minecraft or whatever. So a lot of kids will have accommodations in their 504 IEP that says, a hard copy at home. So I'm not sure if 35 is a good number. My question on this agenda item is, it does say that a committee was formed by the Social Studies Department and admin. How many meetings were held? How many different curriculums were looked at?
So they met, they met for a day and brought in the facilitator, arranged to bring in the groups that he wanted to meet with the team. And then they, based on their meetings and discussions, decided to remain with the current textbook company that we have in the updated versions. He seemed to indicate that they are pleased with what they have and what they have been using.
So something to address to the book company possibly are the concerns that were just raised about students who take the textbook home and don't have the updates. I mean, this is something for McGraw-Hill, I think, to deal with, to try to figure out a solution for, because if they're not reprinting a book, they're just making the updates online, then in terms of adapting the materials for people who need to use the textbook, they should have a solution for that, I would think.
And I would think that'd be between, McGraw-Hill and also the teachers as well to adapt their assignments at home, saying that even though the pages are off, you're not using the online version, but on page 482, answer questions 1, 3, 5, and 6 for your homework. So it's a learning curve. I understand that.
That's probably more or less what you're going to have to do, because if I heard you correct, Ms. Wells, it sounds like that as they put out a new hard copy, they update the online copy. So the bottom line is, once you buy the hard copies today, they're going to update the online copy. It's not going to change a ton, but wouldn't it line up to the new hard copy, which we wouldn't have? I don't know. You could ask for a solution, but I'm not
Right,
sure.
her response is the e-books are updated quarterly with new resources if necessary. So that was, when I asked her about how often the e-books were updated, that was her response.
How often do they update? I'm gonna believe that they put out new hard copies every couple of years. So in 7 years, what is the likelihood of her updating a hard copy 3 or 4 times?
Probably not very high. It's a company like that.
I was gonna say, I would not think so in history, but economics could be a different one, so could law and you, depending on how the legal.
Other questions, concerns? Okay, Mr. Scalzo?
Just
Oh,
one
go
question on
ahead.
this textbook. Is there a deadline for this? You know, is there something, compelling event, do we need to approve this now? Is it the schedule, is it pricing?
She's
Is it?
offering roughly, it's like a $60,000 discount for ordering them by the end of the year, so by the end of December.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and she did state, the Law and You is only an ebook. It doesn't come in a print book, so it's only an ebook, which I understand, I believe that's the way it is now. And then there are print copies of the books out there on the credenza, we received last week. If you would want to peruse those.
Are these books to be used this year or next year, or?
It will start next year. The 7 years will start at the beginning of the 2021 year. And she said that our ebooks are being updated like now as they, as they go. Like they have been continually updating our ebooks as we go. Because this is the current company that we work with.
So is your sense that our staff would be able to accommodate students who do need the hard copies? And I'm asking you guys and I'm asking the educators on the board that, do you think that we'd be able, if we were to vote and approve this today, do you think we could work through it going forward?
I think so, all right. I mean, teachers differentiate all the time.
Right.
And so if you're differentiating a homework assignment, that's, you're only talking a couple minutes of time, and if you know the books online and as well as the hard textbook, that's not a big deal.
Do you guys agree?
Any other questions? Any other discussion?
So,
Okay, Mr. Scalzo?
so could I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but could I request a table number 2? I still want to do a little more research on the dual enrollment. Is that something that's a possibility?
So the only concern with that is that scheduling starts, and we've been doing, which I feel is very important. It's been successful. We've been doing a move-up day, and basically that means that we start scheduling well in advance so that students then know their schedule, try it on, and we address any scheduling issues that might occur, before the end of the year. So the only dangerous part in waiting till January is a lot of these, for example, meetings with parents and opening it up, that timeline's gonna start. Ms. Wells, is that correct, though? The time. So if you do that, that's the downside to doing that.
I still don't feel comfortable voting on it. And receiving information yesterday, if I had 7 days or, enough time to feel comfortable, research it, ask questions, talk to community members, talk to other professionals. Again, how do I make an informed decision when I received that 24 hours ago? So that's where I am with that.
Are you looking, though, to change a current policy, a practice, right? Because I think Ms. Wells said that it's, we're currently doing this today. So you'd be looking at it as kind of undoing what we're doing today. Can that be done at any time? I guess that's my question.
Okay,
Could that be?
Okay, we can do that. That's
Yeah.
fine.
That's a policy issue that can be relooked at and fixed.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, so there are 4 items under curriculum committee. Are there any items that anyone would want withheld, since we already discussed? We okay?
Yes, you're fine.
Okay. Then I would like to move items 1 through 4, January graduation list, high school course selection guide. Number 3, purchase of high school social studies resources, grades 9 through 12. And number 4, professional development.
Second.
I guess just one question before we vote. My daughter's listed on number
Oh.
1. Do I need to abstain from that one? Or, I mean, it's not a financial conflict of interest, but it's a,
I think as a matter of principle, you should vote for it.
yeah, okay. Well, that's, yeah, I know. I mean, I know. I vote to get rid of my financial responsibilities.
He said it's not a
Unless
conflict.
you're going to vote no.
Unless you're gonna vote no.
Barry, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, it's been, all the items under the Personnel Committee have been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All 4 items carry then. Okay, our next area is the Personnel Committee. We have several items underneath there. Will you take a look at those? And then we can talk, we want to talk about number 2 for sure. And I don't see any others right now. So last week we talked about opening the position of assistant principal at the high school. There are only 2 principals at the high school right now. There are 2 deans, are they called deans?
Dean of Attendance and
Yeah, so,
Dean of, go ahead.
do you want me to?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So, we have a head principal, lead principal, we have an associate principal, we have a dean of students, and we have a dean of attendance. And in those last 2 positions that I mentioned, although they are bargaining unit positions, at a time when we started this and we decided to reduce, they had teaching periods and we eliminated those teaching periods so that they would have a full day. And in addition to that, I know that there are more hours being served in support staff with regards to the attendance office than there were before. If it is obviously the board's wishes, we will, and this goes through, we will do as you request to try to work to hire the very best person, but I, as the superintendent, have to say that I would not recommend that. I feel that what we have is adequate.
Can I ask a question, Mrs. Dobus?
Sure.
Have we done any analysis, like maybe having Dr. O'Rourke go to the high school, talk to each one of these people, and come back with an analysis to us as to what their responsibilities are, what they're doing, what they're not doing, what they need to be done? I mean, just going out and adding a salary to a declining enrollment doesn't make sense to me, and I think that we need to take a review before we step forward with that.
I don't think it's anything that they're not doing. I think it has a lot to do with what they can't do. When you
that's why
talk
I
about
asked the
14,
question.
right, when you talk about 1,400 students and you have 2 principals, those principals are responsible for not only 504 meetings, IEP meetings, everything. So you're talking about 700 kids per principal, right?
I'm not arguing the point. I just asked if we did an evaluation.
Right.
Did we do an evaluation to know that we absolutely need the position? That was my question.
No, I think we should. Yeah, absolutely we should. And we should probably document the job descriptions of all positions that we want to fill. I think that's a good step that we should go through. I mean, we put this on as we're kind of brainstorming,
Right.
okay? Kind of talking about what we thought we heard, and, you know, what we've heard as we were running also. I mean, we've talked to lots of people, and maybe some of these are opinions, but I guess we should also, you know, list out what is it that a dean cannot do under the bargaining unit that only a principal can do. You know, related to discipline, 504 meetings, and, you know, things like that. You know, we should absolutely do that. I think that we should have an org chart with job descriptions, you know, current versus proposed, and then take a look at what is the, you know, the drawbacks or benefits of each scenario.
Yeah, I think making informed decisions make the most sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to your employees and ask them what they want, what are they going to tell you? So I think we need to do our own research and not just listen to what you may or may not have heard. I don't know. I wasn't
Right.
privy to it. But I
some
think
of
it
the-
makes more sense to do that.
You know, some of the data also came from looking at other school districts as well. You know, other school districts, you know, performing very high. And we also have about 50% more on the special education population side, which also is a, you know, adds to the principal's job duties, so. But we should absolutely I think, design the organization, you know, collecting feedback from administrators, from, you know, current people on the jobs.
And a lot of that has to do with, you know, we've been talking about a 360 survey as well. You know, not only what do the students feel that they need, what do the parents need, what do teachers and support staff and administration needs, and a lot of that information can come from such a survey. You know, I've said this word in probably just twice or 3 times tonight, triage. It seems to me from feedback is that it's a triage unit, you know, at the high school level. I agree with you. As much data as possible. We can easily figure out percentages of neighboring school districts, you know, in terms of how many administrators that can sit in on IEPs, 504s, gifted IEP or GIEP meetings. How many are needed? Now, don't forget. So, if we have a 17% special education population across the district, just in the high school, we're talking about 240 children with just IEPs and GIEPs, and so that's a significant number because kids don't only just have one meeting a year. You know, it's not uncommon, and it should be this way that a child would need 5, 10, 15 meetings a year because sometimes Plan A doesn't work, sometimes Plan B doesn't work. But I think that data we could garner from other districts as well. But I do agree with you. Having the most, you know, information and making the best informed decision is probably the right way to go.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm.
Oh, I know you're not. I know you're not.
I want to make sure that we do what's best for the student, but we need to know what we're doing, make sure we're doing the correct thing for the student.
Right, and I
Sure.
think a lot of the feedback has come based on the fact that you have districts around here that are very much outperforming us. And you look at who's doing the discipline, who's sitting in the IEP meetings, who's doing other things, and most of those districts at least have 2 assistant principals. Some have 3, some have 4, depending on the numbers they have and the ratio to students, along with the IEPs and the 504 plans. So I think in looking at our high school, and I have a child in that high school, as a parent, I would highly recommend us looking at the data, but starting to move forward with that assistant principal position. If you look at the data based on just our classroom sizes that are down the road, that number is going to increase again at the high school level, and we need to be ready for it. We cannot, Darren's word, triage continuously at the high school. We have to start being proactive, not reactive, to a lot of things. A lot of it has to do with, a lot of it has to do with just keeping the students in class.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with what all of our grade levels students are. So we are actually increasing in 6th, 7th, 8th grade right now. More students in those classes than we have in our 9th grade class. I thought that's what you just said. I didn't want to misinterpret what you said.
You're looking at class sizes. If you take the class sizes and you add them, I believe that 10th grade class is one of the smallest we have moving forward. Might be by only 20 students, but still that's 20 more students.
I also just wanted to say, unrelated to that, because I'd just be remiss, and I don't mean to say this in any way to sway people's decision on your feedback, but I'd also like to make sure that I thank, you know, Mrs. Sutton, our Director of Special Education. She's down there a lot in the high school working, and I think that's good. I think that hands-on experience is really good. Not that she covers every IEP meeting, but I know for a fact she covers a lot of them and helps to, you know, and gets her hands on that. So I think that's another component of, and I'm not saying that to say that whether that to sway your vote as to whether or not you want to add another principal or not. I've given my opinion and my recommendation, but I just wanted to make sure I did give a shout out to your point that she's there a lot. And
of course, and Dr. Shu as well down in the elementaries.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For me,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pam.
for me, I've been advocating for this for a while, and it's really just based on numbers of students. We have 2 principals at NAMS, we have 2 principals at Independence, and we have twice as many kids at the high school, and we have 2 principals at the high school also. I understand that the deans help out, but they're not principals. So if you just look at numbers, we should actually, I think, add 2 assistant principals, but I think 1 would be a step in the right direction. But I do agree with you, Russ. We talked about this last week. We probably should do more analysis and come at this well-informed rather than just as a result of a discussion we had last week.
Yeah,
I brought this up last week. I've been removed from that building 2.5 years ago. I don't know how much has changed. I know when I worked there, my role was a little bit different than the police officers that are now. And I know the need for 2 assistant principals along with the principal and with the deans. So contrary to some opinions on the table here, I pushed forward for this because of the fact that, also like Pam said, the breakdown of the numbers of student to administrator, the roles of the 2 deans and their functions, and their other jobs that they end up doing throughout the school year. There is a great need for another assistant principal down there at that high school, and I will advocate and push for this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the data's good. The data's always good to back it up. What I hear all the time is, you know, little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. When you have twice as many big kids in the high school, you know, there's extra, duties.
So, I also believe we need the extra assistant principal, but it is based on the past 2 years' discussions we've had over personnel in executive committee. Mine is coming from a more informed position. I do think, though, that we should table this until next month so that the new board members can have all of the information prior to casting that vote.
Yeah. And just to be clear, if that is, I'm not saying it is, but if that ends up being the case, before we leave it, will you just, what I heard is that you'd like Dr. O'Rourke to try to go down, we could all help her, obviously, team effort, and get an organizational chart and job descriptions. If that's what you end up deciding to do, that's what you want us to do. Just at the end of it, whatever you decide, just make sure we know what we're supposed to be bringing to you.
Scenarios, here's what I would like to see. I don't know if I'm speaking for the rest of the board, but I would like to see scenarios that Dr. O'Rourke and Dr. Jansanti develop. The 2 of them develop different organizational scenarios of how they would structure the building, where their needs are in terms of resources. And I think that, Dr. O'Rourke, one thing that you could look at also is, across the district, do we need to hire? You know, are there other resources in other buildings where maybe we could shift around and move resources to the high school? You know, we should look at this holistically across the entire district also. If we have to, 2 principals, a principal and assistant in other buildings, are they needed? Do we have a greater need in the high school than we do in some of the other buildings? So, you know, maybe this is a net neutral change, and it's just a matter of moving resources.
The other thing I'm going to ask is, can we compare with the other districts in here? I'm speaking specifically, if you want to stay in County, Mount Lebanon, Upper St. Clair, Baldwin. If you want to go out of county, I would look at also Peters Township and Kennebunk.
I do agree with the job description as well, because let's not forget that the 2 administrators at the high school, they're also, one of their roles is to supervise teachers, provide feedback, provide a lot of different guidance there. Is it feasible with the amount of teachers that we have in the high school where you just have 2 administrators? That's something I think will come out through some of the number crunching, and some feedback that we get from the high school as well.
Right, because all those principals also have to do teacher reviews each year. So how are they doing how's that time splitting? And where do they think the weaknesses are?
Okay, so I'm not sure how to proceed. Do we want to take this off the agenda? We haven't even moved it yet. This is still
just
this is
table
still
it?
discussion.
Could we table it till next month, when we have the
Does that take a
information?
motion?
But-
Yeah, you could make a motion to table.
But we
items
haven't even moved them yet, so do we have to table, do we have to table now, or just remove it now?
Well, here's what I would say. I'd say that if, when you're done discussing the personnel items, someone could move the personnel agenda, and then someone could make a motion to table item 2.
Okay.
And you vote on that, and then vote on the underlying
Okay,
remaining items.
thank you.
Sure.
So are there any other items for discussion under personnel?
On these tutors, so is this the same structure that we've been looking at over the last few months? I guess, have we kind of stalled in our ability to find these tutors?
I think so. I'll let Ms. Wells speak to that. I know that we tried to offer them at a different time frame per suggestion.
All but Lincoln.
All but Lincoln, like as to where the
Correct.
buildings felt it would be best fit to get both the students and the staff, but go ahead, Ms. Wells.
Correct, so it appears that Franklin has all of its tutors. Lincoln has one spot for one day that hasn't been filled. Memorial, you'll see that TBD with the date. There is a person who's getting all of her paperwork into us, so she wants to be in that spot but did not have her paperwork completed yet to be on the agenda there, and so then they'll have one to be filled spot. William Penns are all assigned, and then Washington, that's the one that's missing position 2 and 3. They moved to a morning tutoring this year. They thought that might help them get more people interested in tutoring. And then Neil Armstrong, this is new for them this year. Mr. Patterson wanted to try to look at math specifically in 5th grade and 6th grade. And so, you know, I think he's advertising and trying to get that ball rolling. So 5th grade, there is, I believe it's a single teacher who has taken those 2 days, but he is still trying to work on the 6th grade.
Okay, and we're finding staff, right? Current staff as an extra duty, or is there people from?
Precision employees, but
Okay.
then they have to do our employee packet, because then we, the district, are paying them. So that's where that,
Yeah.
If our staff
Lag
wants
or
it
delay
first,
is coming.
they get it first, and we
Yeah.
want them to do it first. But if they're unable, which
Okay.
was part of the reason why both for the students and the staff, it was recommended that we try different times, because that might be beneficial to both the staff and the students. But although it may have improved somewhat, we're still probably looking at having to
well, because then any
use.
staff member who subs at the high school or the middle school level would not be available to tutor in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of, that's why we're trying it this year. We're trying the morning
Yeah.
tutoring at the elementary school with staff members. We did have some staff members, some instructional aides and paraprofessional aides that would tutor. But then if they work at a building that's not the elementary school, you know, so we're trying to see the best
Okay.
way and be flexible, what works best to get as many tutors and as many students as possible.
Where are we at on the demand? Are people asking for it, and we have to tell them no, or are?
That has not been brought up to me, so I have no
Okay.
knowledge of if that's happening.
Okay.
Is it possible just to inquire, so we would have an idea? If anybody, every child has been turned down?
Anything more? Okay, Mr. McGregor, would you move the items, please?
Okay, we have 7 items on the personnel agenda. Obviously, number 2 is going to be held out to be tabled until next month, correct?
Well, move them all, and
Move
then
them all,
we'll,
okay.
and then we'll
So,
table
I'll
it.
move 1 through 7.
Right,
Yes.
okay.
So we need a second?
Second that.
Is there a motion to modify the motion on the floor to table?
I move item 2 be tabled.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded to table number 2, approval of staff opening the position of assistant principal at the high school to the next, to January's meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, the motion carries 8 to 1. I mean, 7-1. Sorry. Okay, we're now voting on 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Okay, so we have under that category, committee, the Director of Finance and the Director of Facilities and Services for discussion. Both of those positions are, both of the people in those positions are going to retire. And so the discussion is to advertise for those positions. We've been finding out what their job description is and so forth. Just wondering whether we should go forward with that, or what do you want to do about that? We want to have people in place soon.
Yeah, my thought is, I'll get the discussion started, I guess, is on the Director of Finance, I believe we should post this as for the finance responsibilities only and not the HR responsibilities.
I would cater that a little more towards a business manager, finance and operations.
Yeah.
Like a lot of districts have business managers and HR separate, not finance only, but finance and operations.
Sure. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Finance and operations?
Business operations.
Business, yeah.
I think we need to be very.
Business manager.
Business manager, yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
Could you say it one more time?
Like a business manager.
Just business manager.
Yeah, in charge of finance and operations.
So-
But the
Well,
title.
the title would be business manager.
That's what I'm just trying to get. I don't want to post, if
So
you say
when-
to post something, I don't
When,
want to
when
post
we
it.
discussed with Mr. Krause about his current job position, there was
Can
kind
you
of three.
speak, can you speak up?
There was I think three primary elements, that's what you're talking about. One is, there's the pure finance piece, there's the operations piece, and then there's, in his current job description, the HR piece. And what I think we're saying is, include the first two, leave out the HR piece.
And in addition to local newspapers and so forth, there was another recommended place that we advertised. PASBO?
PASBO.
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 For both, correct?
Yeah.
For
The
the
SBA also
facilities
has.
and services too.
Are we putting in, under operations, the security part of Mr. Karazi, or are we going to pull that out also for right now? Based on just looking for the right person to fit that key element?
I-
Go ahead.
Well, no, I'll just let everyone, eventually, if it's okay with you, I would just make a statement, but I'll wait till everyone's done.
Okay. Does anybody have any answer to?
Well, the aspect of the safety, or the Safe to Say coordinator position, and again, that's something administration could then define who there's going to be in regards to the superintendent or one of the assistant superintendents. You know, and again, what role do we look at as the school police and security? Do we redefine those, how that is structured? That may also be part of that question.
I think that comes into where the long-term planning and strategics come in also.
Can you speak up?
I said, I think that comes into where security falls, the long-term planning and where the organizational chart falls.
Well, with all due respect, Ms. Walsh-Turner, it may need to be part of our long-term planning, but we also have to account for the person who's handling it now leaving, whether or not, or who's going to take those responsibilities once they're gone. So we have to kind of address it.
I understand, but
Short-term and long-term.
short-term, let's leave it as it is, he's not leaving for 6 months. But long-term, look at it as we plan out the next couple of months in the strategic planning that the board plans to take on.
So we're just talking right now what we're going to advertise for, and are we in
Yeah.
agreement to advertise for finance, or business manager, finance, and operations? Is that, do I have that correct? Okay.
Originally it said post business manager. Do you want me to put
Business
of
manager.
finance? You tell me what the title is and I'll write it
And
down.
operations.
Finance,
Yeah.
business
Business manager.
Of
yeah.
finance and operation?
Yeah, yeah. And part of the reason isn't even related to, in my mind, are we going to hire a separate HR person? But, you know, I wouldn't want to have candidates who are HR people that we try to fit into a finance and operations job. You know, this is for a business manager position, and we need to make sure we get the best candidates for that. And, you know, not maybe turn away great candidates who see HR as a part of the description and don't apply.
So a little bit of just a couple of my thoughts for you to think about, whatever you decide. Obviously, again, we'll move forward in that direction. But my recommendation sort of is that, because this is how it came about, was the fact that we combine the jobs. And when you're looking at the safety and security part, I think it's a team effort right now. So whether or not the person you hire is the point person, or that point person is the assistant superintendent, or myself, or your superintendent, whoever it might be, we work as a team on the Safe to Says, and I think that's something that, yes, we all could share as a team and figure out who's best suited to be the point person that you have to name. But safety really is a team effort. I mean, we meet in building level committees, then we meet as a district level committee, and yes, Mr. Karazi gets the updates. The key to the Safe to Say is to make sure that the people that are on there are available, all of us are, to get the calls and to handle those issues appropriately, and that somebody is a key point person for the state to be able to put any updates around training or law changes, et cetera, for Safe to Say. So, I mean, if the person fit that mold, that'd be great, and if not, I think there's people around the table who are already, you know, competent to do that. As far as the HR goes, I will make my comment on that. I think combining the two jobs really lend themselves well together, and I know that could seem overwhelming, but we have an excellent staff and we all work together. It is a challenge at some points, I will say. I've interviewed all types of positions, as is Mrs. Sutton, Ms. Wells, Dr. O'Rourke. It's a team effort. But it also helps to, so when the position says it's HR, it is, but in the same idea, it's a team approach, much like safety. I think that having everybody together and working together as a team helps us to communicate well and to understand HR as a whole. And I also think that it allows you to gain a really, really qualified candidate in and around the finance and operations that you're asking for, and be able to compensate that person appropriately. And all of us sharing in the HR role is helpful. That was always my opinion. If you split the jobs up, you may or may not, depending on what your range is, and I don't know what that is. I know we didn't discuss that, and that's totally up to you. But I would be more apt to try to get a competitive wage and have them share in the human resources, as Mr. Karazi has, along with all of us, and get somebody really, really good, in my opinion, as opposed to maybe splitting the job into two, still having a higher cost, and then paying wages or putting caps that are less. I know we haven't talked about that, but that's my recommendation and my thought upon that. Also, I think it's important to note that in a lot of the HR, when you're talking about positions and cost and those types of things, you want to make sure that that person understands the whole financial picture as well as the educational picture, and I think that's what our team does, you know, as we work together as a team. So that's my recommendation. Whatever you decide is what you surely decide, and I respect that. So for now, though, to be clear, we will post Business Manager of Finance and Operation and Director of Facilities and Services. Is that correct? In PASBO and in the newspaper.
Yes.
Okay.
Right, and I agree with Mr. Christensen. If I'm looking for a new baseball coach, and I'm also looking for a new wrestling coach. Now, if I post it separately, we're going to get a lot more qualified individuals for both individually wrestling and baseball. But if I say we're only looking for a wrestling and baseball coach, well, your pool of, has just dropped considerably, so. But, like you said, what if a person comes in who is an experienced budget or business manager who happens to have extensive human resources experience? Well, that's something to consider as well. So I think we just have to wait until we see who comes, across our table.
And just a little bit from my experience, as you were saying that many districts of the size have human resources directors, that part is true. However, many business managers that are operating, in smaller school districts that have a lot of experience and do a nice job, they don't have always a human resources director. So they might bring that to the table and be the best candidate, but obviously the smaller school district may or may not be able to compensate them the same way. Do you see what I mean?
Correct.
I just am saying, maybe keep all your options open, but that's why I recommend what I recommend, but you do as you wish.
Okay, any other
I think it gives us
discussion
the
on that?
opportunity to at least ask the question, right? I mean, before we close the door, let's ask the question.
Yeah, I think that's a question you can ask all the candidates,
Absolutely.
people who apply.
You may find out that your facilities person has operation experience too, and that may change how you do this, how you split the jobs also.
Okay. Any more discussion on that? Okay, are you clear about what we're doing, what we want to advertise for?
Yep, I got it.
Okay. Under Facilities and Services Committee, there are a couple items, one of which is a newer item. The repair of the high school first floor, contract with Fuel Master, and a fence relocation project. So I know I want to know more about this fence relocation project.
Can I just give a little bit of information
Yes,
and then?
about all of them, or any of them,
I think
yes,
that would be good.
please.
So repair on the, and when I'm done, if there's specific questions, you could ask me, and I might defer to the folks around the table, but a general synopsis on each one, just to give you an idea. So the repair, of the high school first floor, what's been happening, and it's happened more than once, and we've had to do this repair, due to settling or movement or something on the first floor of the high school, the bottom floor, where the terrazzo meets, it starts to come up and make a lip. So I think when I first got here, it might have been, I can't remember if I was even here or if I came in on the job then, but they cut pieces out, and the specialized company has to come in and then and flatten that out. But you can't just have anybody do that, because they have to repair the terrazzo. So they'll cut the piece out and then bridge the gap back together to make it flat. So it has continued to happen. It's not the same spot, if I'm correct, is that right?
Correct.
It's different spots, so it's not like it was a failure of the first spot, it's just additional settling. So it is something that will progressively get worse, possibly, and create a tripping hazard, so it's something that I feel that you will want to address. The best time, obviously, to do this would be over a break, because obviously that gives them time to do it when students aren't there and there's access to the classrooms. So that's that one. I'll just go through them all, and then you could ask specific questions. Contract with Fuel Master and Fuel Management System. A while back, about a year or so ago, I say, the board approved, if you might recall, new fuel pumps down at our bus garage, because we were very nervous. Those pumps were really, really old, and it came to the point where they might just shut off, and then that would be an issue. So we replaced those, and part of that agreement was that the technology is going to monitor and, help to protect the usage of fuel. So that lasted as a part of the agreement, I think, for some time, and now that time and part of the agreement is up, so this is an annual maintenance of the cost you see there to monitor that system. The last one is fence relocation project. This was brought to me from several of the softball folks at the softball field, parents, etc., that our field, for some reason or another, they feel that the fence is considerably too long. Although it is adequate, according to our athletic director, it is a greater distance than in other words, when I say it was adequate, it was built within the confines of what it needs to be by regulation. However, the parents really felt, and organizations really felt, that the fence would be better served to be moved in. And they've said this over the course of a couple years. Looking at that, although we were in compliance, or it met the specifications, many of the fields around our area that we play are shorter, the fences are moved in. But that's not something that I would recommend, just our staff being able to do. If we want to do this, this is something that I think we would want to pay a company. We did get a much better quote than what we originally got, which was good news, in my opinion, of $5,840. Excuse me. The only thing is this company wants to do it and needs to work now if we want that price. And I don't mean to put pressure on you, but the other cost, I think, that we had was almost 8 or 10, I want to say, something like that.
11.
So, excuse me?
Close to 11.
11. So it's significantly less if they can do the job in December because they're able to do the work. So the recommendation kind of comes from parents, boosters, coaches, and our athletic director says, he is on board with that, although it was, and I'm not quoting him because he's not here, but it was adequate, but that's been our suggestion, so.
So
Can I
is
take
the
on that one?
driver
Can I-
to improve softball stats, more home runs,
No.
or what is it?
No,
Well,
no.
I was about to say, do we have power hitters coming up to the ranks that?
No. As the booster president for the Slow Pitch Softball Association, we're playing fields that are no more than 210 to 220 feet. Ours is 230 feet. We're putting our players at a disadvantage to home games. The other thing is, I'm going to ask that if we vote to approve this, that the fence for the ambulance service or EMTs can be locked correctly. Most slow pitch softball games, one of our coaches or one of our booster parents is out there linking that fence with additional materials because it doesn't stay closed.
Okay.
So could we inquire that, and without a lock, we're not looking for a lock, but the situation is it's bungee cords holding that together. And that's a concern that, a girl goes to get a ball and that fence opens. So that's a large concern. From a parent standpoint, from a booster standpoint, players, students' health is at risk there. So that's a concern. But I do know that it was asked more by the fast pitch parents than the slow pitch parents.
For the fence relocation.
For the fence relocation.
Yeah, I just know in attending, I don't attend every game, but I've attended some games, and that's always been something that they continuously have been requesting.
But we are easily 10 feet further than any field that our girls fast pitch or slow pitch are playing on.
Again, to the AD's point, legal but not typical, and they want, what I mean? It meets the requirements, but yet they feel it would be better. So I think for this cost, if they really feel that adamant about it, I think it's competitive, and it's something that, he supports now, so if he supports it, I support it.
Yeah. Dr. Pescarell, I don't have a problem with it. I just wonder, back in the day when we built the high school, that no one put their input into that. We could have put the fence anywhere we wanted at that point. So I don't understand, but I don't have a problem voting for it.
I wasn't on the board at
Yeah,
that
no,
time, so
I understand. I'm
wasn't
just saying,
asked.
it seems to me that would have been a quick fix. But for $5,800, I have no problem.
It's very important to them, I know that. I could say that.
Any other questions on any of the items?
Yeah, Mr. Keith, can you explain, obviously the high school isn't settling, or there'd be other issues. So is it was it an installation issue with the terrazzo, or what's your opinion?
This is just my opinion. I feel it's a ground level water problem. And that's causing that to pop. And so does the contractors who come in. They think that's one of the reasons it's popping. Plus, there's a little bit of movement in the floor, but it's mostly the ground level water that's underneath there.
But this is installed over concrete though, right? So is there a
Yes.
concrete problem?
I'm sorry, what?
Is there a concrete problem underneath the terrazzo?
No, there's not a
also?
concrete problem. It's just the water finds its least resistance. It's
Yeah.
pushing, and it's just breaking at the seams and the
Okay.
abutments together. okay? It's not taking the middle of the floor or anything like that, but being that it's fine, it's past least resistance, it's taking care of at the seams when everything's joined together.
So is this going to be a reoccurring problem?
I envision it possibly can be, yes.
Every few years?
Right. I think the
It's-
last time we had it repaired is,
It started right from the beginning, Bill, right?
right, I was gonna say, is in 2012, 2013, we had
Just
issues with it.
Go down there, you
It's
see
been
the small
growing.
cuts down there all the
Right.
time. This is from the get-go.
Right. And we're starting to see it now, starting to show up on the pool side. We have one area on the pool side over in the athletic area, it just popped up for us in the last couple of weeks.
Ground floor.
So we had
Ground
some
floor.
French drain work done also this summer, didn't we? Wasn't there something out in the front? We had
Yeah, we
some,
did it ourselves, but there's an area we're trying to contain the water in one of the classrooms,
Yeah.
that type of thing.
Wow.
That's a
the-
courtyard.
The water problems become,
I'm sorry,
it's
Mr.
a serious water problem
Yes.
on the.
Yes.
Well, if I recall, Bill, wasn't there's a spring on that hillside?
Yes, there's supposed to be springs underneath the building.
So are there,
There's also, while we got it, there's also in the pool, we have a continuously running pump to eliminate the water from, so it doesn't, because the pool goes too low, it'll pop the bottom of the pool up. So we have a water pump that runs, or a pump that runs that out.
so have we looked at any long-term solutions?
I haven't, I mean, because remember, the last issue we had in Buzzy and Doc, and Mr. Modrak can tell us, that it was right at the beginning, and then now, we repaired it, I think, a year or two into the building of the building. Now it just became a problem again this year.
It's going to recur, it's going to keep going.
But I envision,
But I do think
envision we're
it's
having an
something
issue
that you
with it.
need to, whether, I think, short-term, long-term, I'm not sure if there is a long-term fix, but I would say short-term, that's continuing to come up. We have yellow, your staff put yellow over that, but that's going to eventually be, a tripping hazard. So I think that we need to address that.
As Dr. Pascarella mentioned, any of our contractors that are willing to come in and do the work, they're willing to do it at Christmas time, that would alleviate it, so we don't have tripping coming into the first of the year.
Right,
Yeah, I
but
understand that.
putting
I'm
a
just looking
Band-Aid on a
forward.
situation that,
But I don't know
To
what the
spending
answer is.
Go
$20,000,
down.
$30,000
What?
every couple of years.
Right.
You'd have to see where the location is by the circle of the hallways coming down by the elevator and then going out towards the long hallway on building one, first floor. You got to see, again, it's kind of hard because it's already 20, 30 feet in from the hillside. It's like, where's this water coming from?
so do we need to, what are long-term options? I mean, what do we need to look at to see?
I think
what
if
our
you're gonna
Study.
do a
long-term
long-term any options, you'd have to bring an engineering company in to take a look at it and find out where they think the water is seeping from, if that's even the issue. I believe it is the issue, but you'd have to make sure that you get another set of eyes on it.
So wouldn't something like that have been typically noted in the original engineering of the building?
I would
before laying the
off,
foundation?
when they built that school, my opinion, they knew that there was ground surface water and springs under there.
I'm probably the most logical person to try to answer the question. I was relatively new on the board at that point, but there was no actual open running water when they did the dug for the high school. Their soil was remediated. There was a lot of moisture in the soil, but it was the type of soil that was there, not necessarily I'm not an expert on soil differentiation, but we removed all the soil on site, replaced it, repaired it, and the site was dry. That's the best I can tell you. But there was no actual running water or a stream through the site.
I mean, I just growing up with a grandfather that was a contractor, or was a carpenter in his, for 50 years, he would tell me, I'm putting a Band-Aid on a problem, that it's going to get worse.
Well, we can't address the bigger problem right now, I don't think. We have to put a Band-Aid on it right
Yeah,
now.
I mean, we're not gonna solve that
But we
problem.
do need to.
You
we
could
do
trip
need-
off that
We
list.
do need to look at it, yes,
Yeah.
I agree. We definitely should look
you
at
don't,
this
you-
as part of our,
You'll trip off. If you ever go down there, those of you who've been down the first floor, it's enough where if you're not paying attention, your foot will catch it,
Yeah.
you'll fall. Yeah.
I mean, you will.
I mean, we have enough people in and out of that building on a daily basis that
Yeah.
don't know about it, that's a concern to fix it, but I'm just asking, could we look at this as a long-term?
Yeah, can we get a
longer-term
proposal
goal?
from some,
absolutely.
some other
know more than that,
company
I do.
to fix this permanently? we need more French drains or?
So you want a proposal from an outside company or engineer or something? Is that what you're asking for? Or?
I don't know if we're asking for it today as part of the our long-range.
So you'll talk about it later.
strategic
Don't
plan.
act yet.
Don't
Just
act yet.
okay.
Yeah, don't
Yeah,
act.
because
All
we want a whole long-range.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, because we've seen this problem with water, this is just one instance, but we had problems, what was it, in the pool area or somewhere, downstairs, we had leaks coming through the walls, and, those problems seem like they'll just get worse and worse if something more permanent isn't done.
Sure, I think, again, I think you're better off, the best, to make sure when you do this, they have an engineering firm just take a look at the whole building
Yeah.
underneath, the whole foundation, and see what their thoughts are.
Right.
So we'll wait to hear from you back on that.
Yeah, and Russ, you can maybe make a recommendation next month or whatever regarding long-term possibilities.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. So, will you move the items, please?
I will. Under Facility and Services Committee, seeing there are 3 items. Would anyone like any of them held out separately? Hearing none, I move the following 3 items. Number 1, repair of the high school first floor. Item number 2, contract with Fuel Master Fuel Management System. And number 3, the fence relocation project.
Second.
I just have one question for the solicitor. You'll see the 2 quotes, that phone quotes or phone bids, because the one is under the amount.
Right.
The other 2, we've tried many times, but Mr. Keith, no one will call us back. Is this satisfactory?
It does satisfy the requirements under the school code, as long as we have some written memorandum documenting that we tried to get the quotes and we're unable to, and you have one that's under the bid threshold, so you're fine.
I just wanted everyone to know that. Thank you.
Again, second.
Okay, the items under Facilities and Services have been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
Madam President, I'm sorry, it was brought to my suggestion, maybe there are 2 student representatives if they want to care to leave, since we're getting close to 10 o'clock.
Do you two want to leave because it's getting late?
I think we're going to be leaving in a few minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
But nobody else can.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving into the Finance Committee, and there are several items under the Finance Committee. Anything that anybody wants to talk about? I think we, for certain, regarding the PSBA membership, yearly we, I don't know if the person's still here who asked the question. Oh,
Yeah.
yearly we do have membership for that. All this is doing is upping our membership so that we have all access. And yearly, we do approve our membership in that. So the next year, we will approve it with the all-access membership as being part of it.
Yeah, I think, what is it, about $10,000 a year right now? And so this for the whole board is about, another $1,200. And gives everybody access to a lot of the online training, which, with 4, new board members and, 5 others that can always learn something new, it's probably a good investment for this year.
And also webinars and so forth that allows you
Right.
to go. And we've also talked about, last time we talked about board docs, and Mr. Ryer has been able to provide us with some information. Does anyone have questions of Mr. Ryer, or do you want to make any comments before we?
I think Board Docs is good. I don't,
Yeah.
I'm not an expert in it.
a couple of things.
I just know that I struggle with just using our own, software right now. I would just love to have something to organize all of my notes, so
I don't think it's
know.
going to be a panacea. There's going to be a learning curve.
Oh, I'm
So-
sure.
Yeah. But I think one of the things that we talked about before, because I'd asked you some questions about this, is one thing we talked before is that it actually will benefit everybody else a lot better also, because we'll be able to share more real-time documents, communicate changes easier. It'll be accessible through, the bpsd.org website, which is, good for, the transparency that we're trying to create also around the
It
agenda.
also creates a organizational structure that is time-based, that allows you to go back and research and search for information if you're looking for it.
Right.
So,
Will there be training if we purchase this?
there will be training, yes.
So what we're using now, is there a cost to, what's the cost offset? Is there any-
Well, what we have now costs zero.
Okay.
We're just using Google Docs and the
I didn't
saving
know-
everything in it
I didn't know if
without
there's
any kind of
replace
filing
anything we
system.
might have administratively also.
I don't know.
There's nothing it would replace administratively?
I think it probably streamlines the process of assembling the agenda once we get good at it. And so there might be some time savings and some expediency, but I don't think that there's any monetary cost savings at this point in time. At least none that I can think of to identify.
But what we have seen is that as you look around, many other districts use this. The AIU uses this also. It's the recommended, there's the question you answered today, is that this is the recommended tool that PSBA recommends also.
Yes, in fact, we'll even pay PSBA for it. They're the reseller.
Oh, they are?
They are in Pennsylvania.
Oh,
Is it
well, that's why
cheaper
they
if we have
recommend
all
it.
access?
It is not.
Maybe we should do one before the other.
They wouldn't give us a discount. I
They
did
wouldn't,
a-
they
I
wouldn't
did-
prorate it.
Well, I asked people to call, but, because I thought if we did them both at the same time, they'd give us something, but they didn't give us anything. And they wouldn't prorate it either, the membership. But I tried.
Prorate it for a partial.
Like, since we're doing it now, my thought would be for that membership that you'd only get charged half a year. But when the group called maybe Mary Beth, Greg, and some others to try to, say the superintendent wants to know if, because we're gonna do this and might go with board docs, would you do either? They weren't willing to prorate it or give a discount, PSBA, on the membership package, or even prorate it down. Now, I do believe the board doc one was giving us some dollars off,
They're-
not connected to that, but that was good, though.
Yes, of course, everybody wants to sell stuff now.
Now,
So
by the end
so
of
they're
the
going to
year,
give us $1,000, they're going to waive the $1,000 setup fee if we buy it
good.
before the end of December, and they're going to give us the first 3 months, for free,
They won't start our yearly thing for 3 months, so that's
Right.
3 additional months prorated out of that, and they gave us the $1,000 startup fee. But still, it's a
Well,
cost.
the contract, the license agreement starts when we buy it. It's annual based on when we purchase, not based on some calendar date, is it?
Well, they'll prorate it.
Board
So
docs.
they follow a school district budget, so it's July 1 through June 30th. And so they'll bill us for the 3 months. So they're going to give us the first 3 months for free, January, February, March. They'll bill us for April, May, June, and then they'll send us a bill for the whole amount for July 1 through the following year.
That's board
Okay.
docs. I'm
Board
sorry
docs,
if I was
okay.
confusing you. What I was trying to do is combine, since they were both PSBA, and get some kind of discount. When I was saying they wouldn't prorate, I was talking about the membership. The membership of the 1,230, they wouldn't prorate
okay.
that or give me a
Okay.
discount. Sorry if that was confusing.
Okay.
And what period, is that like not January to December, it's school year?
That's school year.
July to June
For both,
for both?
that's what I,
Yeah.
okay.
But the one they will prorate, you're right, and give us 3 months plus 1,000.
So
Right.
when would we get this, and when will we be, when can we be trained on it?
So if you approve it tonight, we would place the order tomorrow. And I've already asked them to try to reserve a slot to get us in training within well, she said 4 to 6 weeks, and that was last week.
Okay.
So right now, it's really contingent upon when they can get a trainer out to us. And, based on how many other districts they have coming on, but I asked her to reserve our slot hopefully before, soon enough that we can get somebody here. So no promises, but 4 to 6 weeks still gets us in time just to before the next board meeting, but it might be tight.
Okay.
It might be a little rough around the edges for the next board meeting.
Or it could be February, right, to be fair.
Well, it could be, but it could be rough around the edges in January.
Okay.
So just maybe to add on to Ken's comment is, when I first joined the board, I remember we were getting packets this thick delivered to our house twice a month, okay, by a driver of the district, and, all these copies, and we went to Google Drive. I remember we entertained the idea of board docs also, but there was a fee, so we'd try it the free way first, but, I would say that it's a challenge to manage this through Google Docs, all the documents, and keep them organized and share the information. So I think it was a good attempt to get by with the free approach, but having something that allows us to share these documents and stay organized is a benefit.
Is there a way to take what we've gathered over the course of our terms as board members and put it on the board docs, or are we going to have to keep bouncing back and forth if we're going back to old?
Good question. I think probably, certain things like minutes might be easy to put out there. I think that the entire meeting, since you build the meeting in board docs, I think it would be hard to take a meeting built in Google Docs and just move it over into board docs. But minutes, probably.
Okay, other questions? Okay, Mr. Christensen, would you move the items under finance, please?
Yes, under finance, I move the following 4 items. One is memorandum of understanding with the Allegheny Intermediate Unit, PSBA membership, PSBA Board Docs Pro, and the items declared unused and unnecessary, which are 8 laptop carts and a healthometer doctor scale.
Second.
Items under finance, the 4 items under finance have been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 8, no, 7-1, right? No, 8-0, yeah. Okay, we have a couple items under other. Mr. Modrak, would you take those, please?
Sure, another, we have 2 items. First one is student agreements. Board of Directors approves administration's recommendation to approve resolutions and agreements for students. Numbers are listed for both. And the second one is a change of the board meeting start time. Board of Directors approves administration's recommendation to change the start time from 7 p.m. for all 2020 board meetings. Any discussion? No, second?
Second? Go ahead, second.
But can we have
Any discussion?
Yeah, on the start time then, will that commence on January? Okay, and then we'll have executive session starting at 6 o'clock then?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
We'll have to advertise, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, you need to advertise the start time for the 2020 meetings.
Is everybody here approve getting home at 9:30 rather than 10:30?
Items under other, number 1 and 2 have been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. The motion passes 8-0. Last week, we had general board discussion, and so in keeping with that, is there anyone who has any item that you'd like to bring up to talk about in the future, or anything you want to talk about in the future?
Well, one other thing, I do have one item, I think we talked about it for about 3 seconds in the back room, is the Rotary Interact Club that we'd like to get started in the school district. I know, Dr. Pasquale, you've had some conversation with the Upper St. Clair Bethel Park Breakfast Rotary about that? Do
Yeah.
you want to expand on it?
Sure. I mean, we had a meeting for request for Interact Club, so we met Mr. Minch, Dr. Jan Sandy, myself met with those folks. And next steps would be, if we want to have that club and we'd like to do that, we'd be meeting with the union to kind of come up with what the stipend for that program would be, and then bringing it for your approval, and then ultimately posting and hiring for the position of sponsor. It focuses a lot of their focus, although I'm not an expert, is on being young Rotarian and service. So I think that's great. I think we have a lot of students already in our high school that are gaining service hours, and I think this would complement and not take away from. They would be able to do both, and it would count for both, is what the folks from the Rotary had explained. So it sounds like an excellent program. I've seen it in a district before, and they've done great work, so I think it would be something that hopefully we'll be able to do. I know we've had it in the past, and it's kind of fizzled a little bit, so we're going to hopefully try, if we can get buy-in, to get students heavily active in that again.
Yeah, I have a little bit of bias. I'm actually in that same Rotary, and it's really about service above self. I mean, I get students on that. We already have students who need service. This would just reinforce that. It's for students between the ages of 12 and 18. If you just look up Interact Clubs Rotary, you'll find a lot of information about it. I know, I believe South Park has a very large active club. Thomas Jefferson and a couple other local districts also do, and it's not just, it's local and international. It gives kids exposure to other international impacts and things that they can be involved with. So I think it's something that we really should get involved with. I think it's a great opportunity for the students in many, many ways.
I agree. I was sponsor before I retired with the Bethel Park Rotary Interact for years. And somebody took it over after I retired, but I think that it's important for us to put it into the extra duty program so that we can keep generating it year after year. So hopefully we'll have something about that at our January meeting. Did you think so?
We'll have to go through the
Well, yeah,
process, but that'll be
okay.
the goal. If it's not January, it'll be February, but I'll try to get it done as soon as we can.
Okay. Other items that you'd like to bring up for discussion?
I'd like to, in the future, I mean, obviously right now it's not a priority, but in the future look at creating some kind of onboarding procedure or policies. A lot of other districts have that for new board members that, to help smooth the transition, kind of fill some gaps, make sure all the board members come in understanding their roles and responsibilities.
Tomorrow, right?
And I think it'd probably be helpful to look at doing something like that in the future in this district, so we have some kind of guidelines or a procedure to follow.
Is that tomorrow's?
What's that?
Is that tomorrow's training?
No.
No.
What I'm talking, I've talked to other districts, board members. They actually have procedures like where you meet with the board members, the superintendent has certain protocol, information that you may be given prior to being sworn in, so that when you come in at your first voting meeting, you have
Sure, I'm sorry.
some of that information. You're privy to the information instead of having to be sworn in to get the information and kind of cram. Something, I don't know exactly what it looks like. I haven't looked into it. Like I said, it's not something, obviously, just being sworn in last week. I don't think it's something that we have to put on top of our priority list, but I do think it's something we should keep on our radar for future board.
I know that was something that many districts did, even my own self, but in previous districts, and maybe even met with you once, I think once you got on, Mr. Nagel. But right now, I know that with the new law, right now, they really want to require that training for elected officials. So I wasn't sure. I intended on seeing what that looked like. I mean, we went down to the one at AIU before it was mandated. You just chose to go down there. So you and I went, and I felt that was informative. But we'll see what this one is, because this one meets the regulations and requirements that board members have to do now. And I think from there, that might better guide if there are some other supplemental things that you're looking for or information. You know what I mean? That might help.
Well, I guess what I'm looking for is not so much the Act 44 requirements that the law mandates, but something to help transition prior to actually being sworn in, something to help.
Yeah, the procedures within Bethel Park.
Right.
School district.
Something like an orientation.
Yeah, we actually did that in the past here. I know when I came on board, that's exactly what happened. Then I also attended 2 or 3 different AIU that they do for all the new board members. So it was very well worth the time.
Yeah, tomorrow, I think there are 7 of us who are going to training at St. Clair High School.
Are you going tomorrow, Russ?
I'm going to be there.
You're,
Oh,
okay.
there's 8.
I
So
guess
8
we're all
of
going.
us.
Yeah.
Going for training at St. Clair High School about being a board member. There's new board member training and also advanced for people who have been there a while. But yeah, I think that's a great idea, Mr. Nagel.
I didn't know it was an option, actually, from what Mary Beth told me. I had to be there, so I'm going to be there.
Yeah,
Well,
you
that's
have
part
to,
of the Act 44 requirements,
You do.
I believe, if you're.
Yeah, I believe I have to be there. so-
Re-elected or,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah, no, I was joking,
Or
but yeah, I'll be there for sure. Whatever Mary Beth tells me, that's what I do.
It's good advice.
Any other board discussion, items for discussion? Okay, public comments on any items whatsoever?
I'll try to keep it fast because it's late. Sharon Janisic, 4314 Anna Street. So first, I wanted to thank you so much for sending Mrs. Sutton to the PDE's Bureau of Special Ed Conference. I hope you wanted to go because I'm really happy that you're going. Thank you. I wanted to share my opinion about the assistant principal at the high school. And I'm particularly concerned, as Darren mentioned, with the principals needing to handle GIEP meetings, IEP meetings, and 504 meetings, which are always at least once a year, but very frequently more than that. And to your point, yes, Mrs. Sutton and Dr. Shu do step in a lot and handle a lot of those, but I also believe that that's not necessarily. There are other things that the Director of Special Education should be doing, and I feel we should not be relying on them to handle all of those meetings. And in most districts, special ed directors hop in and handle difficult situations or a particular student's issues or whatever, but they're generally not the person in the standard everyday meetings. So that concerns me because 17% of 1,400 is 238 divided by 2 is 119, which would mean each of those principals, if we only have 2, has at least 119 students that they're meeting with every single year, and those families. Not to mention kind of supervising and overseeing all of those teachers and those responsibilities and evaluating them and making sure that those plans they're making in the meetings are being carried forward in the classroom. So I do agree that it's something to do some investigation on, but those are concerns. I also think that moving HR and security, there's not enough time out is a good idea, because I think having someone who is a security professional and understands that law as well as HR law is important. And board docs, City of Pittsburgh and North Hills actually put other items. If you're referencing a report or a chart or data, they stick it in there so you can see it ahead of time. And the governor has a Votes PA program for civic engagement in high school. If anybody wants to look that up, it's votespa.com. It's a competition, and they have awards, and it's increasing civic engagement. There's a whole program sponsored through the state. If anyone would like to take a look into that, along with the Rotary suggestion, that sounds awesome. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody.
Jason Turka, 665 Clifton Road. I'm also a middle school teacher at IMS. I have the unfortunate past of having a one incident in my life that defines a before and an after. That's when my wife had some life-threatening health conditions, which she still deals with. At that time, I felt 100% supported by the school district, by the teachers, and by the board, and I appreciate that. In the years since, things have gotten harder. More mandates from the state, more initiatives from the school district. It seems like every single year, more is piling on. And just last week was the first time since that incident in 2010 where I felt that something made my life easier. And that was the elimination of the quota for the family engagement. And I want to thank the board for freeing up a little bit of my time to focus on curriculum, to focus on grading, and to not have a quota. Like Mrs. Janasek said, I'm a little disheartened by the discussion about staffing. In the last election, there were 37,000 votes cast. In the previous election, when 5 members were elected, there were 21,000 votes cast. That's 75% more people. The 5 that were elected this time are the 5 highest vote getters ever. And there's a reason for that, and there's a reason for the community's turnout. We want to change. We are tired of managed decline. We are tired of having one person do multiple jobs. And it was disheartening to hear that our recommendations are to go with a skeleton crew moving forward. I think we're better than that. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Any board comments? It's time for board comments if anyone wants to say anything.
Just want to say Merry Christmas to everybody.
I'd like to repeat that also, and however you celebrate your holidays. I would like to wish you many blessings during this season, and be safe. Move to adjourn.
So
Can I have a
moved.
move?
Second.
All in favor?
I think we should say.